For half a century, Stephen King hasn't just scared us. He's dominated the world of terror, crafting a legacy that towers over the genre and redefining what it means to be a master of storytelling. Stephen King is a name that resonates with readers worldwide, not just for his mastery of horror, but for his incredible storytelling that has spanned decades. Now, did you know that King's blood-curdling tales have sold over 350 million copies worldwide? That's right. And this man isn't just a master of horror. He's a man who survived being hit by a van, used a pseudonym to outsmart critics, and turned his nightmarish dreams into best-selling novels. Intrigued? You should be. Let's unravel the spine-chilling story of Stephen King. Born on September 21st, 1947, in Portland, Maine, Stephen Edwin King wasn't exactly destined for a life of luxury. His father abandoned the family when King was just 2 years old, leaving his mother to raise him and his older brother. The family moved around frequently, struggling financially, which would later seep into the dark undercurrents of King's writing. But even as a child, Stephen had a penchant for the eerie and the bizarre. He discovered a box of his father's horror books in the attic, and that was it. He was hooked. The boy devoured tales of monsters, ghouls, and aliens, eventually penning his own terrifying stories. By the time he was in high school, King was already selling his macabre tales to classmates. He even wrote a column for the school newspaper, ironically titled King's Garbage Truck. Now, every legendary writer has a breakthrough, and for Stephen King, it was a little novel called Carrie. But did you know that this masterpiece seldom saw the light of day? Frustrated with the story, King tossed the manuscript into the trash. It was his wife, Tabitha, who fished it out, read it, and urged him to finish it. Published in 1974, Carrie was a game changer. It was the story of a bullied high school girl who discovers she has telekinetic powers. A simple premise, but one that sent shockwaves through the literary world. Carrie, which King sold for a $500 advance, would go on to earn $400,000 for the rights to its paperback run. King's reign as the king of horror had begun. After Carrie, King didn't just rest on his laurels, he churned out one bestseller after another. Salem's Lot, TheShining, The Stand, and It, just to name a few. The Shining alone has haunted readers and viewers alike, with its eerie depiction of a man's descent into madness in an isolated hotel. And then there's It, which introduced the world to Pennywise the Clown, a character so terrifying, it gave an entire generation coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Here's a fun fact. Stephen King isn't just Stephen King. For a while, he was also Richard Bachman. Why the pseudonym? Well, King was so prolific that his publisher feared releasing too many books under his name would saturate the market. So, King created Bachman, and under this alter ego, he published novels like Thinner and TheRunningMan. But as with all good secrets, this one eventually got out. A bookstore clerk noticed the similarities between King's and Bachman's writing styles and exposed the ruse. Instead of being upset, King reveled in it. The sales of Bachman's books skyrocketed, proving that even under a different name, King's writing was irresistible. In the mid-90s, King took a bold step with The Green Mile, releasing it as a serial novel, 6 small books released over 6 months. It was an old-fashioned publishing style, reminiscent of how Charles Dickens released his work. And guess what? It worked like a charm. Readers were hooked, eagerly awaiting each installment. The story of a death row inmate with miraculous powers was so compelling that it later became an Oscar-nominated film. King's novels aren't just about monsters and ghosts. They delve deep into human fears, addiction, madness, childhood trauma, and the unknown. King has a knack for tapping into the primal fears that lurk within us all. His work often blurs the line between the supernatural and the psychological, making us question what's scarier, the monsters under the bed or the demons in our minds. King is also a master of short fiction. Collections like Night Shift, Different Seasons, and Skeleton Crew have produced some of his most iconic stories, including The Body, which became the film Stand By Me, and Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, which was adapted into The Shawshank Redemption. These short stories showcase King's versatility and his ability to craft unforgettable tales in just a few pages. His written work has been made into some of the most iconic movies and television series. Whether it's the frightening Stanley Kubrick film The Shining or the warm, insightful The Shawshank Redemption, King's stories have crossed over into other media. He's even dabbled in screenwriting and directing, though his one attempt at the latter, Maximum Overdrive, is more infamous than famous. But even the king of horror makes a mistake or two. In 2000, King gave fans a peek behind the curtain with On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft. The book provides an intimate look at King's writing process, his challenges, and his guidance for other writers. It's a must-read for anyone who's ever wanted to put pen to paper. King also has been at the forefront of non-traditional publishing. In 2000, he published the novella Riding the Bullet as an ebook, something quite new at the time. But while Stephen King may think like a dark guy, his own life is pretty solid. He has been married to Tabitha since 1971, and they have 3 children, a Unitarian Universalist minister daughter, Naomi King, and 2 novelist sons, Joe Hill and Owen King. But King's life hasn't been easy. In the late 70s and early 80s, he struggled with alcohol and drug abuse, which he's been very public about. Most of his books from this time, such as TheShining, reflect his inner demons. Tragically, in 1999, King was the victim of one of the most terrifying accidents of his life. He was run over by a van while walking close to his home in Maine. The accident seriously injured him, and it was as if he would never write again. But King, well, he's a survivor, and he used his healing process as his muse and inspiration. King's political views are also controversial, and he's not afraid to express them. He's a strong opponent of some political leaders and initiatives, but doesn't hesitate to lend his voice to the causes he's passionate about. Like it or not, King isn't afraid to say what he thinks. King's writing has garnered him many awards, such as the National Book Foundation's Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters. He also has a National Medal of Arts and a Mystery Writers of America Lifetime Achievement Award. But really, we all know King's legacy is absolute. He's not just a writer, he's a cultural phenomenon. His tales have frightened, inspired, and touched the lives of millions of readers and viewers around the world. And the best part? He's still at it, writing novels, short stories, and adaptations that remain entertaining. As a die-hard King fan or someone new to King's work, one thing is for sure. Stephen King's reign as the king of horror is far from over. His stories will live in the back of our nightmares forever, and isn't that pretty much the way he'd want it? Well, that's a wrap for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to stay updated with more captivating content, hit that red subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from us. Your support means everything.